Welcome to the Scale Ups podcast, where each week you get to hear Sean Steele, professional CEO, growth mentor, and advisory board chair, unpack the strategies that successful founders have used to achieve scale in their businesses. Stay tuned as he interviews the entrepreneurs who've made it, learns from industry experts, and follows a group of founders still striving to scale.
G'day everyone, and welcome to the Scale Ups podcast, where we help first-time founders learn the secret to scaling so they can fulfill the potential of their business, make bigger decisions with greater confidence, and maximize the value they can create in the world. I am your host, Sean Steele, and I'm joined today by Kelly Broderick, the co-founder of Cleanworks. How are you today, Kel?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited. I think you're doing a great job trying to help people scale their companies.
Thank you very much. Well, look, I have been looking forward to this interview for a while. As a bit of background for our audience, you and I have known each other actually since 2017, would it have been, when you first established your advisory board? Mm-hmm. And so for context for the audience, I was an advisor and on your advisory board. And I remember very clearly the first meeting, which I remember coming home from that first meeting thinking, these guys are really just out and ambitious and going to kill it. I remember your clear goals, which was about figuring out the strategy and the path to double the size of your business from sort of 10 mil to 20 mil over the next 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
And I thought this is going to be an awesome, this is a great set of co-founders, and they're really going after it, which I just loved. And for those who don't know, Cleanworks is a commercial cleaning company based in Queensland, and services clients nationally now, but at over 450 sites, 300 cleaners, and a strong focus in the offices sector, but particularly also in K-12 schools as well as industrial. And co-founded by yourself and your co-founder Katie in, what was that, 2001?
2001, 2002. So, yeah, I think the partnership, when you look at the ABN, says 2002 maybe. So,
I love that. So almost 20 years. Geez,
we say 20 years now. So I think we've been saying 20 years for a few years. So
it'll probably align, the celebration surely will align with, borders opening up and people will be able to travel properly. So,
hopefully, that'd be good. Yeah, Katie will be asking for more time off, trust me.
Yeah, no doubt. I know you guys love the travel. Well, look, one of the things that I can't wait to get into questions with you. One of the things I love about your story is that you stayed in this game for 20 years. This is not an overnight success kind of story. And of course, lots of people are looking to really accelerate super fast. And you've had some incredible growth rate in the last 5 years, but a very different growth rate in the first 15. And I love that it has been a consistent hard work, incrementally building the ground up, building the business, I should say, from the ground up over time into a strong and sustainable business that it is today. Maybe you could kick off, Kelly, and just give us a bit of insight into why you started this business. What was the genesis of the business?
I saw the cash flow quadrant, and cash flow quadrant was all about becoming an investor and business owner, and then you become investor. So that's the bottom line. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be in control of my paycheck, money, wealth, independence. That's the reality of why we started Cleanworks. So, my dad wasn't happy when I said I was quitting university to become a cleaning contractor. It wasn't fit for his ego. But I'm sure he's deceased now. I'm sure he's happy with where I'm at.
He's happy to have been wrong.
Yeah, that's right. So if you parents out there, no expectations.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Like the cash flow quadrant and the stuff that Kiyosaki did really had some big influences on it. Like that was a game changing moment. Actually seeing Kiyosaki live back in Sydney, I think also around maybe 2001, was just a complete game changer of my entire psychology around business, investing, finances, and my own personal development.
Yeah.
So can you just to give people a bit of a flavour of Cleanworks, could you just give us a walkthrough of the typical customer? Like, who are they? What problem do they usually have that would suggest that yours is the right business to sort of go about solving it?
Yeah, so obviously we clean across different industries. So half of our business or revenue is predominantly offices. And so if I was talking about that customer, usually quality of cleaning is a problem for them. But they're also money conscious as well, the private sectors. So, and that's where it can be a tough industry because they're wanting champagne, but on a beer budget. So just trying to communicate with them and find out exactly what their expectations are versus, what they really want and what will work for the hygiene of their office and also their budget is our style of when we're working with the customer. And then you got the school market, quite similar, but the school market, schools are large. The clients, you're not just dealing with a facilities manager, you have a business manager. You've got parents as well, that the community, that you've got to, they're your clients too that are giving you feedback on cleaning and so forth. So, but very similar
process. I'm sure everybody's got a view when it comes to school parents,
it's right? Very subjective cleaning, but same process, trying to work with the client to find out what their needs are versus what they want. What does the school need for the kids, budget, etc. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. I'm wondering, given many people who've never given too much thought to cleaning the cleaning of the offices that they might work in or the schools that their kids are in, may not understand what differentiates one cleaner from another. They might just think it's just cleaning, isn't it? It's all the same.
Yes.
How have you thought about the differentiation of the business? Like, how have you tried to set yourself apart from others over the years?
This is a hard one. This has always been a challenge for us to differentiate cleaning and innovate cleaning. And we think, which I won't share with you because it's just recently happened this year, we think we've finally got an X factor for the first after 20 years.
Wow.
So, to answer that question, look, we don't have the new latest innovation. Like I said, I think we've got one now, but in the past, ours has just been purely building relationships with clients, honesty, caring about the cleaners that are on the ground, training, just good old-fashioned values in business is what has made us success. That we care. Yeah. We don't just want a paycheck from the client. We actually want to deliver a good quality service to them and have long-term clients. So it's not, like I said, it's not a tech differentiator or something really strong, but that's what I say is difference about Cleanworks.
It's an underrated principle, right? Like the ability to actually just do an excellent job, like have people be heard, ask the right questions, do a great job, show up properly, and come back the next time and be consistent and have a brand experience.
Exactly.
And the fact that you've been able to continue building for 20 years shows how that has played a real role. What would be some metrics that might help people understand the growth that you've had, whether it's revenue or cleaners or customer numbers or whatever the best way is, but particularly in the context of the change, given you've been doing this for 20 years but you've also had a stronger growth rate in the last sort of 5 or so. Can you just give us some numbers that would help people understand?
Yeah, so for the first 15 years, 6.5 million we're at. So it took us 15 years to get there. And then in the last 5 years, we put Troy Stollard on as our general manager, and Kay and I were able to not work so much in the business and on the business because we wanted to scale. We said, let's do it. And so we jumped from, I've written it down, 6.5. In 3 years, we're at 13 million. So nearly doubled within 3 years. 6.5 million revenue with 30 full-time staff equivalent, because we do have part-time casuals. In 3 years, we doubled 13 mil with 150 full-timers and then 18 mil thereabouts right now at 240 full-timers. Wow. So, the growth rate, 300% nearly. So we're pretty happy about it. And now we're talking about building to 50 mil and we'll probably even do that now even quicker than, 15 years to the 6.5. So it gets, I suppose, for people listening, as you do grow, the bigger you get. Bigger's not always better, but it gets easier. It does get easier. So, and I even remember back in the day when Kay and I only had a couple of cleaners to choose from, like a small, if we needed fill-in staff and we only had a small pool of say 10 cleaners, it was harder than choosing from a pool of 100 cleaners. So as you grow, it definitely got easier. So
And I imagine that, if you think about the things that you learned and some of the things that really changed the dial on that growth trajectory that got you from the 6.5 to the 18, I'd be so interested to know, and we'll come back to it, whether do you think it'll be the same set of learnings that actually just carries on to get you from 18 to 50, or actually, is there a new set of learnings that might have to be unlocked, or that might sort of change the trajectory to actually get that from 18 to 50? But in the context of the 6.5 to 18, clearly there were some key moments, some key decisions, some key things that you did or thought about that changed that growth rate, because that's a really significant sort of step up in the speed the business was growing. Can you tell us about a couple of those kind of key moments, key decisions, things that really changed the dial on your trajectory?
Yeah, it was quite simple. So what we were doing before was we were trying to be everything to everyone. So we were trying to focus too much on maybe 5 different industries and not really becoming that expert or that brand in that market. So offices, industrial, aged care and so forth. And we just decided, hey, why don't we go choose an industry or choose a niche? Let's go deep. Let's really just focus on that industry, make sure it's got enough market share, and grab more of that industry than, I suppose, what they say is going wide. So that's been the game changer. That's how we've grown. So the school market is what we've chosen. We made sure that we did the market intel, made sure it had enough market share. We already had a few schools, so it was easy we'd already had a bit of experience. So we were able to leverage on that. And then we just got focused. We went, right, we want to become one of the leading cleaning companies in the education sector. And we got the list. We contacted them, we market to them, we built relationships, we went to conferences within the school market, and we've built a good reputation now, brand. So that was only about 3 years ago, even though Troy's been on for 5 years. That was only about 3 years ago that we went, yep, let's get focused on this, let's do it. And I call it, now you're not shooting bullets going, well, where's my clients? Where's my clients? Hope they come to me. Hope they come to me. Now, most of the schools in Southeast Queensland, we're still yet to go throughout Australia, but they know of Cleanworks. If they're going to tender, they know, okay, I want to invite Cleanworks to the tender list. So that when you're in that position, that's when you know, okay, it's a bit of a game changer now. So, but that was it.
It takes courage though, right? Like, there's this moment where you're going, we're kind of cutting our nose off to spite our face. Like, we're going to have to start sort of saying no to people, or we're going to have to sort of maybe turn away some opportunities. Is there enough? So it sounds like you were doing some research to really validate that there was enough market sort of size if you could get access to it. But it still takes courage to really kind of focus and niche down. Did you find that in the process?
I suppose, I didn't feel that because we were still saying yes to other offices or other industries that would approach us, and we were still doing some marketing. But I suppose you're hoping, okay, let's make this work. But that's coming to my mindset. I'm pretty strong in that area with the mindset. So I don't think I was so fearful. I was like, if there's a market, and I always say this to business owners, if there's a market and a need, like, that's tick, tick. Like, you're going to get clients. Yeah. It's not a blue ocean strategy. So, for people who don't know that, new technology, new thing that people don't even know about. Kombucha was one of the stories with no one knew about kombucha. So it was very hard for the founder there. Now he's, I think, a billionaire.
Because I find this, I'm in conversations with clients about this all the time, about niching down and who's the most profitable customer. And if you could get rid of all clients and just have one type of customer that was the most enjoyable to work with, because you do a great job, you enjoy the interaction, and they're a profitable customer and they're long-term, or they're the right, who would that customer be? And let's get really clear about it. And the beautiful thing about a B2B business is that you can actually, if you can't get the list of, to your point, who is the customer, like who's the actual person in the role in the company, and get the list of if I could get those 100 customers, it would change the dial on this business. That's where you want to get to from a B2B perspective, right? To your point, if you spread yourself super thin, you just don't have the bandwidth to do that. And you never become an expert in everything or in anything. And you never develop the sort of the depth of insight into that industry and their problems to become seen as the kind of trusted brand in that industry. So you just become sort of nothing to no one.
100%. 100%. That's exactly how we grew Cleanworks, because our commercial side of the business is still at the same revenue.
Yeah.
It's only because of exactly that strategy that we've been able to grow, and now we'll continue to scale Cleanworks with that methodology, with that mindset. And any other business and people that I talk to, it's all about what's your niche. Can you identify your niche? Can you identify your client, as you're saying? Can you find that list?
So what about then some of the other, I guess some of the constraints that you had to unlock? I know, from previous conversations, you've talked to me a bit about the way you've built your team and the way you sort of created leverage, given, when you're building a business as co-founders, you end up, of course, sort of splitting up responsibilities and you're both kind of managing your patch. And then, but at some point you need other people involved and you've got to delegate. How did you think about sort of building your team and getting yourself out of the way and kind of creating leverage and the opportunity to work on the business?
We've briefly talked about it. Katie and I were always like, we want to replace ourselves. We want to keep replacing what we're doing and then eventually, become a non-executive director or board sort of member of the business. So, it's identifying, I suppose, well, what are you currently doing? Whether or not you're still involved in, are you doing up the tenders? Are you writing? Because no one else in the business has the tender skills that I have. Well, you need to look at your organisational structure and your people, and you either need to make some hard decisions of moving people on, and that certainly has happened over the years, to find a tender writer within your business. So, but as you know too, identifying what's your skill sets, what's your strengths, because everyone will always just go back to what they love doing, and then finding people who are good at, I suppose, some of the things that you're not so good at, and just finding that team. But every business owner has some business owners, they don't want to get themselves out of the business. They do want to become the CEO, the general manager, or whatever, their desire is. So, then, sit down. One of the things, Vern Harnish is, okay, if you want a $20 million business, if you want a $50 million business, whatever size is, he's like, actually work backwards. Like, look at your org structure and go, what does my business look at 20 mil? And what are the people that will be needed? And sometimes it's not as easy. It can take time and things do change. You've got to be sort of flexible as well. And then, reverse engineer it.
Work backwards.
Work backwards and go, okay, if I'm wanting to get to 10 mil right now, I'm at 2 mil. Well, what does that org structure look like? And where do I see myself? Okay, well, start then moving things or slowly planting the seeds. So, it's not rocket science, as you know. It's for everyone out there. It's not rocket science. It's just doing. Just take action.
And in the way that you built your team, if I recall correctly, you mentioned to me that you sort of, you guys had done every job in the business, right? And so you was almost sort of building up and replacing yourselves role at a time. Okay, I managed to get rid of that role. Now what's the next role? Okay, almost sort of just one by one taking the load off until you got to a point where actually all of those sort of technical day-to-day things were being done. But then the question is that tends to get you to a certain point, right? Because that gets you to all of the operational frontline sort of things happening. And then when you get to the leadership level and you're going, hang on a second, but where do I need to hire? Usually in that process, you're kind of thinking you probably do most things. Okay, maybe unless you're an accountant, maybe other than things like finance and so on. You can probably do some sales and some customer service and operations and all this sort of thing. But then how did you think about who do we need as our sort of next key hires, where we need to hire a sort of, high cost resource that we think is going to be able to drive something, either they're going to bring in a really important capability or they're going to take a really big load off us? How did you think about those kind of key hire moments?
One of the biggest key hire moments was hiring Troy, our general manager, because that was like, you wanted that to go right, because essentially they were going to be managing the day-to-day of the business. So for us, we wanted someone who was liked sales more than operations. So yes, could do operations, but wanted to make sure they wanted to scale the company. We didn't want to make sure we brought someone in that was more operational focus, and wanted everything right on an operational level. And but you're not growing the company in 5 years' time. We're still at 6.5, but everything's 99. QAs are 99.95%, which would be great, but we're not going to grow. So that was, I suppose, just going, what sort of GM do we want their skill sets to be, was important to us. So, and they had to love wanting to close deals or love the hunt. So. Yeah. And now we have a general manager of operations. So Troy's the executive general manager, and now we have an operation who loves operations and is managing the people and that side of the business, so that we can keep scaling.
And what about finances? On a journey this long, you learn stuff about money, right? Whether it's the way you raise capital or how you fund growth or the way you manage your numbers. Tell me about what you've learned, or kind of, key moments that have been important in the context of this journey from a financial perspective.
Cash is definitely king. That's one of the things that will keep you up at night, as you know, and that's one of the stressful things. If you run out of cash, you're stressed. You don't know what to do. Thank God there's only been once early on the piece that we were tight, and luckily Katie had done a property deal with her father. She had a bit of money, so she was able to just lend it, and then we were able to pay it back. But the biggest learning was know your numbers, especially a cash flow forecast. So we forecast 12 months ahead now. If you can do longer, fantastic. Every decision that we made, yes, you'd put it into a budget P&L, but we plug it into the cash flow. That was, can we afford it? That was the biggest thing. Okay, we want to hire someone, can plug it in. And we didn't inflate sales. We were like, in the cash flow, we went sales of what they are now, cost of goods of what they are, what expenses, if you're hiring new people, like management, plug it into what it is. Don't plug it into, but if we hire that person, we're going to get $2 million. So let's plug in $2 million. Because I've seen business owners go, well, I had a forecast of, $5 million. That's why I put on all these people. And then we haven't hit the $5 million, and now I'm stressed. And it's like, plug into reality. And then, it's the forecasting, like forecast out 12 months. And also the big thing is what in your cash flow, like some people only forecast for 3 months. And I know some businesses, it's a bit harder too, whereas the cleaning, you have set contracts. So you know your contracts, you know your cost of goods. And I know some with cash flow, it's a bit of here and there sometimes. But what your cash flow, if things happen in your business, mainly on a down trajectory, it won't change in 3 months. It would change in 12 months. So if people are only doing 3 months out, they're like, oh, we're fine. And then they get to 12 months and they go, well, what happened? So I can't stress to every business owner and people scaling, even future, is to do a cash flow forecast. And just keep refining that. I've only just in the last couple of years, I had people entering certain data for me in cash flow on the back end, but I've only even just in the last couple of years relinquished Troy, allowing him to update. But it's something every week that I still go into that cash flow and I still look at it every week, and I will continue to do that. So.
No, and I think it's what I love about what you said there is many people spend time looking at a P&L, and you're thinking about, you start building management discipline to have good financial reporting, and everybody starts with a P&L and a budget and so on, and then it's like, balance sheets, cash flow, don't really understand the value of them, or don't understand them very well, or don't have a good finance person in my corner to kind of help me unpack it or unpick it and understand it. But I love the fact that your default was, major decision coming up, let's think about cash flow first and then worry about P&L later. It's actually about the sustainability and the oxygen in the business to keep going. If not everything else goes sort of, rosy, how much room have we got? That I think is a really great way of creating some defense on the way, right? You're trying to be aggressive, but you can get too aggressive and you can build your fixed costs up way too quickly, to your point, in the hope that there's going to be extra revenue to cover it. Sometimes it doesn't come in, or sometimes it comes in and at the wrong margin or the wrong sort of product mix, and all of a sudden you're getting squeezed because you're sort of overinvested.
And you've got a responsibility to people too. So you didn't want to hire someone that's maybe left another job and go, oh, sorry, I didn't manage my cash flow and I've hired you and now 3 months later I've got to let you go. So there was also for us that responsibility of making sure that we've got our, stuff on the back end together and that we feel confident hiring them. So there's a bit of values there as well, moral.
Kelly, when you think about this journey for you, what on a personal level, what makes you come alive in business? Which part of business just lights you up? Do you have the most fun doing? And sort of how does that sort of turn up in Cleanworks, or the way that you built the company, or the way you built the culture?
I'm probably more the visionary. So I love to have fun. And because if you're not having fun, if you're not laughing, even when stuff happens, sometimes you just have to laugh at it. So at the moment, what lights me up is obviously strategizing. I love learning, love learning. So, and I think every business owner should hopefully love to learn. There is a saying, the business will only grow as much as the owner grows. And I've always said it to myself. And so, one of the things, I love to learn. I love learning about business. Like that, you've got to really have a love for it. You've got to want to love learning about a sales and a sales team and a sales process, or about operations and being the best customer service expectation, or, doing a course of how to hire an A player, or, doing a financial forecast course in Udemy. Like you've got to really want to understand each department of your business. So, I love the cultural stuff in business. I'm the one that brought the ping pong tables in. I love rewarding and recognizing people. We give out $50 Mind gift cards each month to cleaners. I'm put a blackboard, writing awesome blackboard in the kitchen that you can write to each other saying, well done, mate. I'm an optimist. So that side of that business, that's what I love, doing, is bringing, I suppose, a bit of joy to people, raising them up, and hopefully being motivators for people as well is where I love to spend time. But all day, every day, I could just strategize with someone about their business. If you don't take action, though, you won't get much more of my time. But but all day, love it. And then coming up with just weird, crazy stuff that it's just go for it. Because that's what people love. I'm the themes of business, that marketer. It's just great. I mean, Katie and Troy just think I'm crazy half the time. But
no doubt the occasional.
And so is my partner. But they love it. I'm like, you're still here? So,
absolutely. Well, so given that you're clearly a bit of a sort of learning machine and very dedicated to that sort of student of business and of life and of your own personal development, what have been just one or two of the really critical tools, books, authors, or methodologies or frameworks that have actually underpinned, I guess, on one side, your development as a leader, something that's been really highly impactful for you personally, and on the other side, something that's actually really helped the business, key decisions that you've made, or the way you've been able to scale?
I mean, on a personal side, obviously Robert Kiyosaki and, the cash flow quadrant was a big game changer when you first saw that, as you saw that. Anthony Robbins, we went to Business Mastery over in Fiji, and that was pretty cool. But on a business side of things, Sherlaw's training, I don't know if you've done any of that. That was pretty cool to see. He studied different businesses over, the different times of their business. I'm trying to think of his name now. He's a UK guy, but he talks about like a black hole at 17 million. And if you can't sort of see, how you get out of this black hole, and, some people, when they're sort of just stuck at that, they then we'll just go to a new area, like a different demographic, which is what we were sort of looking at, because we were sort of in that black hole and I was aware of this black hole. So whether I manifested the black hole, who knows, but we were sort of in this black hole, and you were just going to go to a different demographic, but you'd still get 17 mil in there. You doubled your business, but you're still in a black hole. So trying to work out, how you get out of it. Anyway, we figured that out. We're pretty confident we figured out. But Sherlaw's training, scaling up, obviously, Vern Harnish, they're two of my probably different business courses, and just the book Scaling Up has been great. So, and not everything, like I've implemented things and some things worked and some things didn't. I always think of
Scaling Up as a sort of, it's like a launching off point, isn't it? And everything's got to feel, you got to customize everything to your business when it comes to frameworks that make sense for your culture, your style, and, the opportunity to make it your own. You never have to take it off the shelf and use it exactly as it was intended. You got to shape it in a way that works for you and becomes sort of uniquely part of your business and your culture. What about, can you talk to me about personal boundaries? What I mean by that is, when you're a founder and you've got your own business and you're running really hard, there's often not a lot of separation, and there's some stressful periods, right? Like some periods where you're just working like crazy, just trying to get things to happen, and you're responsible for everybody and the weight's on your shoulders. And of course, when the business and personal life is just completely sort of intertwined, it can impact relationships, it can impact health, it can impact all sorts of things. What sort of personal boundaries have you sort of installed or implemented over time to make sure that you've got a balance between, working hard and having impact in business, but also actually getting to have, some semblance of a life outside with kind of, friends and loved ones and family?
I don't have children, so I do think it makes it a little bit easier that Kate and I both were younger when we started growing the business. I couldn't imagine, probably, honestly, having children and doing what we did back in the day with Cleanworks, because I'm up, 3 a.m, I'm cleaning at night, and then I'm working all day. So I don't know how much insight I can sort of say to that, because back then it was just like, well,
get it done.
It took precedent. Like Troy's been on since I was 34 years of age, which I sort of say, like, I've been retired since 34. So, with that, there's not, okay, well, I'm gonna, whilst I still had a personal life, your business obviously takes precedent at that time. But just things like, I suppose, when you're in your 20s, early 20s, people were still going out Sunday night, and they still are. And just things that I didn't do that because I knew Monday I wanted to hit the ground running, and I wanted to be present for my business. What else, I suppose? That, there was one time where, and I suppose this is more about leverage and just that next step in business, is that if cleaners called in sick, you'd have to go out and clean because you didn't want to let down the client. And then there's that time when you've got so many clients and you didn't have enough cleaners. And I just said to Katie, no, I said, I'm not going out there to clean. I will need to ring the client the next day and explain that the cleaner's had an accident. This is what's happened. And, you'll get your clean, the next time, if it obviously wasn't urgent. So that was a bit of, okay, no, and she still reminded me of this just a couple of days ago, because one of her friends has a domestic cleaning business, and she's asking for a bit of help. She's like, Kelly, you said, no, we need to, step into that sort of that management mindset. But yeah, I don't know how well to answer that. It was get the job done. I wanted to set up the business, and I had certain goals, and people around me, I suppose, if they knew what I wanted and they did, they respected that. So,
well, speaking of people around you, what was, if you think on advice that you received over time, whether it was instructive from a book or whether it was from a mentor or a peer or a family member or a staff member or whoever, what was advice that you received that really mattered, that sort of stuck with you, that stayed, in there and was formative or sort of instructive in the way that you built the business?
You mentioned this at the start about, wow, you've been in this business for 20 years. I haven't grasshopped. It's a long time. So back in the day when we were cleaning some of our house, for a gentleman. He had the contract for about 20 years, invested well into property. And one of the, lessons he said to us was, I've seen so many people in life, whether it be from business, relationships or careers, they grasshop. And what I've seen from that is they usually don't make as success as people who don't grasshop. And Katie and I both at the time, that really just sat with me. And so, with Cleanworks, I mean, there's many times that you want to get out, many times that you want to sell. But for some reason, that grasshopping, message, lesson that he said to me, it just stuck with me. That I was like, no, I know that if I stick at this, as long as things keep moving, I get it that people change for a reason. And don't stay in something if you feel like it's going to head to a dead end, because that can be disastrous for you. But if you feel that you know that it's still moving and it's still going to get you what outcome you want, then stick through the emotional hard times, because there's a lot of times that you want to give up. There's a lot of times that you want to quit. So grasshopping, I'll probably write a book in it because I see it happen. I'm seeing it happen these days with the younger ones so much that they're grasshopping careers.
It's not popular, is it? I just imagine you as being like the most unpopular judge in a sort of accelerator competition or something. It's like, okay, let me tell you the most important thing. You're not, if you don't make it, $10 million in the next 2 years, I'd actually suggest you stick at it.
Yeah.
And keep going.
Exactly.
Wouldn't I just get on to the next idea?
Yeah, that's right. Or jump onto the next vehicle. If business isn't working, they'll go to property or they'll go to shares or so forth. Right. So, for 20 years in business, it takes you a long time to even really just start to grow and develop, in it. So that was one. And then the other one was, my ex-partner's husband at the time, father at the time, he was just exiting out of his business, built a big business. He sold it. He was quite wealthy and he knew I'd just started the cleaning business. And he said to me, so I'm 19, he said to me, it's going to take you 20 years to really start to feel like you've got a business. And at 19, you're like, good on you, sort of old man, I'm going to do it in 10, by 29, millionaire, I'm 10 years.
Yeah.
And honestly, 20 years, 20 years, if it's your first business. Obviously now my second or third, you do it a lot quicker because but if your first time business, I say to people 20 years and they sort of look at me and go, but that has been true for me is those two lessons, has probably been, good lessons for me. So
love it. If you had your time over knowing what you now know about the business that you've built, the industry, leadership, all the other stuff that you've learned over time. If you had your time over again, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
Look, all good in hindsight, right? But I'd probably want to grow quicker than the 6.5 mil that took sort of 15 years. So, I should have chosen a niche a lot quicker to focus on, and then leverage Katie and ourselves, probably put on a GM maybe a little bit sooner. They're probably the two things is that, just to grow quicker, but apparently you're supposed to.
We've always got 20/20 vision, and it's amazing to be insightful and wise.
That's right.
When it's mirror.
But right time, right? The right time when you're ready and when the business owner's ready. So it was time.
So tell me about. Okay, take me out into the future now. 3 years from now, you dropped a number in there early on, which was 50. And I was like, wow, okay, this is the same ambition that I heard in 2017 when we were at 10 and you're now, you've almost cracked 20. You're so close to that goal. And now you're saying, hang on, I'm thinking now 50. What does this business look like? What would that mean to you?
Look, 5 years, we've put a BHAG on 5 years. So, and BHAGs is let's just go for it. Let's just see and have some fun. We're piloting something at the moment, which obviously I don't want to tell, but we're pretty excited about it. We feel like we've got another game changer, another X factor. So it would be 5 years time, 50 million and more Australia. We're predominantly a lot in Southeast Queensland, but definitely we'd be going to Sydney, Melbourne and expanding. So, cool. And more senior people, within Cleanworks. So CFO, and Katie and I would definitely have, more of that board presence. So, at the moment we're still strategizing, which we love and so forth, but it would probably be the CEO strategizing, CFO, with the financials, just a bigger So that's where we see ourselves at this stage in 5 years' time. So we'll see what happens.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
It is.
Well, I have got millions of questions. And you and I could just talk for hours and hours. But I ask every guest this question. I'm always fascinated by the answer. I want you to imagine the segment's called Above All Else.
Okay.
So I want you to imagine, go right out into the future, into your yearning years, for want of a better word. You've achieved what you wanted. You've started as many businesses as you've wanted. You've created heaps of value in the world for you, for customers and for your staff and for yourselves. And the CEO of the world's largest global community of first-time founders, tens of millions of first-time founders, hungry for information, trying to figure out how the hell do I scale this thing? I'm stuck, and they're looking for wisdom. And you've got this great opportunity, this huge global platform, but a kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to give them your 3 above all else's, to finish this sentence. The CEO asks you to finish this sentence. The 3 things you must get right as a founder if you want to scale are, what would be your 3 above all else's?
Oh, big question. What are the 3 things? Don't overanalyze. Honestly, just get on with it. Take action. Take action. I know this is more than I'll summarize each 3 things,
okay.
But it's the fear that people they're so fearful. And so imagine when you're 70, you're going to be going to yourself, or 80, what the hell was I so scared about? So, picture yourself at that 80, and because the fear at 80 will just go. I feel like people's fear at 80, like when they die, just go, how ridiculous. So just, what did I say? 3 things were: don't overanalyze, basically get on with it. Stop being so fearful. Have a plan. Have a plan and work the plan. It's probably a big thing. You've got to have a plan. You can shoot a bit from the hip, but I'm a planner. Plan. So tweak the plan. There's probably more things than 3, but plan. So people say to me all the time, I go over and over things. I drive my partner crazy. I drive Katie crazy because I will repeat.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we've got it. I'm like, well, I need to go over it again. So yeah, but just go and do it, people. So what is the alternative? That's what I say to people. What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
So
right. What if you don't find out? What if you don't find out whether you can achieve that?
Yeah.
Or you can go after it. You actually just don't know. Well, Kelly, I have absolutely loved our time today, and I would really like to acknowledge you. One of the things that was so exciting for me about this is, the business isn't a whiz-bang widget. It's a service-based business. It's doing things that people have been doing for a long time. It's not reliant on some incredible technological innovation, but it just shows that actually sticking to your game, the way that you guys have just hustled, 15 years to get to your first 6.5, and then this sort of rocket. But, to your point, you could have given up numerous times along the way, but you stayed firm. You felt responsible for your people. You wanted to keep working at it, and you'd had these fantastic, you'd really sort of latched on to some really key principles that guided you through that period. So I just really like to acknowledge the way you and Katie have really sort of hustled, stayed firm, and I'm so excited for you to be enjoying the fruits of your labor. And I love that you are now elevating your, you could easily be going, okay, that's us, like we're done now, but you're like, you know what? I got plenty left in the tank. Let's go for something that's really fun and exciting.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
How can people get in touch with you or follow what you're doing? How would they find you?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. And I'll think about whether or not maybe giving my email address.
Sure. Well, we can put it in the show notes if you want to, but LinkedIn's fine, and the Cleanworks website as well.
Cleanworks, so cleanworks.com.au. Really simple. But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message if you want to chat to me. More than happy to help people out as long as you take action.
I'm with you on that.
I'm a big action. Don't waste my time, and no victim thinking either. So
that's it. That's it. Well, thank you.
I've had a great time. Thanks, Sean.
I'm so glad. And I really enjoyed it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the show with Kelly. Huge thanks to you, Kelly, from Cleanworks. A couple of things before you go. If you got value from the podcast today, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really gives a great kick along to our team who work hard to put it all together for you. It also helps other people find the podcast, which is appreciated. If you'd like to be the first to know when new episodes drop, just go to the website, scaleupspodcast.com. Drop your email in there. You'll get notified when new things drop, but you'll also get notified when free tools and resources, which are under development, drop. If you're a social animal, just find us on any social platform at Scale Up's Podcast. And remember, the only thing, and Kelly is a perfect example, the only thing that can guarantee that you won't scale is actually giving up. So you have to stay unshakable in your faith that you're going to get there, but you remain flexible in your approach. You've been listening to the Scale Up's Podcast. I'm Sean Steele, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Kelly.
Sean. Thank you. See ya. Bye.
G'day everyone, just a couple of quick things before you go. If you have questions that you'd love myself or an upcoming guest to tackle about challenges that you're facing in scaling your business, please just jump straight on the website, scaleupspodcast.com. You can record your message straight from your mobile by hitting the button on the right-hand side of the page, or you can just email them the old-fashioned way, questions@scaleupspodcast.com. And just a quick reminder, nothing we spoke about today constitutes financial or business advice. If you are considering making big decisions in your business, seek out a professional who can look at your situation in detail and make sure you're getting sound, personalised advice. Thanks for listening. Look forward to being back in your podcast feed next week.